Today, I'm thrilled to welcome a truly inspiring guest to the show, Trey Meeks. He is a man of many talents and wealth of experience. Raised by a single mother, he embodies resilience and determination, channeling those values into a life dedicated to education, sports, and financial empowerment. For over 20 years, Trey has coached high school basketball, shaping young athletes both on and off the court. As a high school teacher with more than a decade of experience, he's been instrumental in preparing students for success in the classroom and beyond. Trey holds a Bachelor's of Arts in Finance and Management Information Systems, as well as a master's degree in secondary education, showcasing his commitment to lifelong learning. Beyond the classroom and the court, he's a life licensed professional and a registered representative with Transamerica Financial Advisor Incorporation, holding Series 6 and also 63 license. Trey's diverse expertise in education, athletics, and financial planning makes him a powerful candidate for holistic success. I can't wait to dive into his story. Trey, welcome to the Single Parent Nation podcast. How are you?
I am great, Priscilla. It's so exciting to be here. I'm excited to jump on, and for all your listeners and Single Parent Nation, I am excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. So, can you share with us your experience growing up with a single mom?
Oh, yeah, where do I start? Yes, I grew up in South Central Los Angeles in California, and I was raised by a single mom, man, Miss Kathleen Randall. I'm her only son. She had a son before me that unfortunately passed from sudden infant syndrome. It's called SIDS, a couple of years before me. So I was her second child, but I'm her only one living. So needless to say, she was very, very protective of me, losing her first child. Um, at first, I couldn't go anywhere. I was like the mama's boy hanging around, couldn't go anywhere. She's always had to see me and know where I was, and I didn't really understand, like, man, why are you always on me? But it's because prior history. So we we uh we grew up in a small, tiny two-bedroom apartment in South Central, living like under some stairs, and
Mhm.
that's where our apartment was. And we struggled. We worked hard. My mom was a hard worker, working multiple jobs. I was the latchkey kid, had to let myself in, make my own dinner, figure stuff out as I got a little older. And yeah, that's where she pushed me though. She pushed me to be the best I could possibly be. She gave me so much opportunity. She always made sure I was dreaming and never was comfortable where I was and always striving for the best. So it was a tough upbringing. 'Cause she was tough. She used to always say, I'm always on your neck. She used to always be on me. And she never let me slide. And I used to hate it when I was a young kid, especially as a teenager, because my friends had so many extra liberties and so much freedom, and I was heavy curfew, punishments, things of that nature,
Hmm.
and they used to tease me about it. Like I said, I hated the discipline, but I appreciate it so much now.
So
So
it's
yeah.
like, yeah, you didn't understand it then, but now you understand it.
Nope, I don't. And I tell any of my clients or my friends that are single moms or single dads, and I tell them like, man, we turn out okay. A
Yeah.
single parent kids, we turn out okay. So just trust the process and don't worry about them not liking you right now. It's okay. It's okay because it worked out on the back end. It really did. And I thank her for it because I have friends, a lot of those friends that weren't that had more freedom. They're not in the same space. And I'm not really talking about success or unsuccess, but just the choices they made later on.
Right.
Because they didn't have that discipline, they didn't have that voice in their head.
Hmm.
It made a difference in their lives and mine. So yeah.
I'm glad she rented that space in your head permanently.
She still has it. She still has it. I don't think she rented it. She owns it. She owns the space in my head.
Does
Yep.
she still call you?
No, well, unfortunately, she passed away in 2019.
Oh,
But she still calls me. Yeah, she still calls me
virtually.
when I'm doing something crazy. Yeah, she still calls me. But yeah, she passed away at an early age of like 63, and but I miss her. But she's still here. I still hear her voice. I still hear her songs. She's still relevant in my life, like every day.
Rest her soul.
Yeah.
I'm curious to know what lessons about money and resilience did your mom teach you growing up?
Whew. Let me tell you one thing I didn't really get is lessons about money as far as I knew how to make it and how to spend it, but I didn't really get the education on how to grow it and keep it. That wasn't something that she was taught, unfortunately. So it wasn't something that I learned from her directly. I knew how to work hard for it. So that's something she did teach me. She taught me how to work hard and nothing was going to come to you. Nothing is free. She's always said, nothing is free. You got to work for it. So she always used to, so I did learn that about money, that you had to work for it, that
Mhm.
it wasn't going to come easy, that everything was about how hard you worked. Not necessarily how smart you work, but how hard you work. Even to this day, I tell my kids, the harder you work, the better you'll be. And that comes from her. Not the same, but the attitude comes from her. So she did teach me in that space how to work hard for a living.
Right. And then you learned how to work smart.
Yes.
Yes, I can't
Yes.
wait to dive
Yeah,
into that
yeah,
part.
yeah, yeah. I learned how to work smarter for it, and not as hard, but hard still. Yeah,
Yeah. So when I was growing up, my parents were married, then got divorced. They co-parent. So growing up, all I heard was you have to work hard and save your money. Basically, I never heard about stocks or
yeah.
any kind of investment. It's just like business or real estate. That was it.
Hmm.
Yeah. So how was your upbringing shaping your career as a financial professional?
Yeah, and my parent my although I was raised by a single mom, my dad was in the picture, so it was a single parent with my dad available.
Mhm.
Still they I learned how hard they worked and really how they really didn't uh get to see the labor that they put in from a wealth standpoint.
Mhm.
Like they worked really hard, but they didn't really have much to show for it,
Right.
right? Because they didn't have the financial education on how to make money work. They didn't understand some of the principles of compound interest and wealth savings vehicles and things of that nature. They didn't really have that. They did not really. They didn't have that education. So without we talk about when people know better, they do better. But if they did, they had no clue. So they just worked hard to pay bills and save a little money.
Mhm.
We weren't even homeowners growing up. They didn't even understand the power of real estate, like you said. Your parents, yeah, they didn't have that education and information because it wasn't given where they grew up. So, but they put me in position to um, grow in other areas and get out and see more of the world. So as you see more, you learn more. So that's the benefit of being with them is they didn't limit me. They didn't limit me at all. They told me the sky's the limit. So even though they hadn't seen the sky, if that makes any sense, they told me the sky's the limit, so to keep pushing.
Right. But you sound like one of those people that understood your parents' upbringing and just kind of move forward by educating yourself because
Yeah.
you have some people that they will blame their parents. Oh, my parents never taught me that, right? And then
Yeah.
they themselves, they don't even educate themselves.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, mine was opposite. It was like if they don't know, I need to find out,
Right.
right? Because it needs to stop with me. You get
Right.
what I'm saying? Like that lack of education, that blaming, not that they were blaming, but that type of attitude, like the world is against me, and this is the reason why I didn't fail. They never let me have that type of attitude. It was always go get it. And my dad and my mom always wanted me to be a step or two further than them. So I knew going on like first my dad went to college, I had to go a step further, right? So I had to get a master's degree just because I had to, he said, you got to go a step further than me. My mom didn't have a chance to go to college, so I went a step further than her. She was more of a trade school type individual. So pushing a step and beyond, I didn't use what we lacked as an excuse. I used it as motivation and inspiration to get more, to move further, and to prepare for my family that was coming, even though I didn't know where, when, and where. I knew I had to prepare for that.
Yeah. So you're the prime example of breaking generational curse.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And it stems. My dad was actually the first one. My mom was the one that moved into her space, but really focusing on, like I said, the buck stops. Why not me? Really? Why not me? Why do I have to live in these meager circumstances and be okay with it? I don't mind the meager because it helped me get to where I am now, and I'm super grateful and I'm humble because I know where we came from and how hard my family worked. But it motivated me to want more and to help people, more importantly, and to serve our community with education and information. So I've been in a lifelong service, from coaching to teaching to now in this financial world, just serving. And I learned that from my parents.
Well, we appreciate you. And I can't I can't wait to ask you these questions. So what advice would you give single parents trying to build a legacy for their children?
That's a good question. The one thing is understanding that you have especially when it comes to your children, that you have they have the biggest commodity, which is time.
Mhm.
So what we think we lack is actually a positive, because sometimes we like, oh, I don't have enough. Well, something is better than nothing. So the biggest advice is, I would say, start saving,
Just
start putting money away, just
mhm.
whatever you can afford. And even if you could inconvenience yourself for your children's own good, do that, because they have time, and and over time they can really, really grow well if you're in the right vehicles. You could really, really grow well. So one thing I would say is start now.
Just
Start
start.
now. Just start. Just
Start where you
get,
are right
yeah.
now.
Get in the habit of saving. Get
Right.
in the habit of saving, the habit of putting yourself and your kids in the front of the line. I tell people to always spend what's left after saving.
Mhm.
So, and that comes with your kids. Like, put money away for them instead of and this is just my opinion, but instead of all the extra gifts for birthdays and the holidays and things like that, put some money aside for them
Mhm.
that will grow, that they'll appreciate later on, because they will appreciate it. They will appreciate it later on. So make the sacrifice now.
Right. Now, what is the very first step do you advise a single parent should take to create a solid financial foundation?
Yeah, the first thing is get a financial needs analysis from someone, from a financial professional, because that needs analysis will give you the like a panoramic snapshot or overview of your finances, and figuring out where you're overspending, where you're underspending, where you're on track, and where you can afford to save, right? So getting that financial needs analysis, which if you talk to anyone that's a financial professional, it shouldn't cost you, right? It shouldn't be something that is, oh, I got to pay a fee for this. So find someone that'll do it uh, complimentary, and go from there. And once you have that financial foundation, then you build what's called a financial pyramid, and the financial professional can help you with that. But it starts with understanding where I'm at, where can I save money, where can I cut costs, where can I increase my wealth, and dive into those spaces.
Right. Now, how can a single parent balance immediate financial responsibilities while planning a future? Because some will say, I don't have anything left after expenses, and some say I have a little bit, or some has a substantial amount after expenses, but they
Yeah.
don't know what to do with it.
Yeah, I think the best thing is to, for those that lack the extra income or discretionary,
Mhm.
the best thing to do is try to find another source of income.
Right.
And it may not be a second job, because I know for my mom, a second job meant she was not at home, right? So that is kind of the older way. In 2024, there's so many different avenues for single parents to make extra money without necessarily physically leaving the house. So
Right.
find another source of income. Um, it may not necessarily that is over the top. Maybe it's an extra 500 bucks, extra thousand,
Mhm.
extra 2,000, just to get the ball rolling in the savings. For those that have enough, get with someone that can instruct you properly on what to do with that money, right?
Mhm.
And use it properly instead of splurging on stuff, right? The stuff didn't do it for me. I can tell you, as a single kid, I had as an only child with a single parent, there was a lot of things that I had, but the time meant more than anything. The time spent was the one thing that I really enjoy. When I remember it all, I remember a couple of bikes. I remember one or two bikes in my life, or a couple of games, a couple of Christmases, but it's the time spent that meant the most. So finding something that you can do while also being available is what I would say.
Okay, and what why is creating generational wealth important and how can single parents start?
Yeah, generational wealth is key because at the end of the day, my parents wanted me to be better off than them. And the same thing I want for my kids. I
Mm-hmm,
want my kids to be better off than me. And I want them to have the work ethic, but also have the access.
mm-hmm,
Way you get access is by building wealth, right? So they don't have to, I didn't have to work as hard as my parents. I had to work hard still, but not as hard. And the harder I work, the more access I have. So I want to give my kids more access, and I want them to give their kids more access. Because money isn't everything, but it does give you options, right? It gives you options to be able to do things, experiences, and show your generation how to live so then they can continue to pass it on over time.
right. Now, how can you break down the importance of having a financial safety net, like an emergency fund or even life insurance?
Yeah, when it comes to we have a saying. I have a bunch of sayings, but one is save money now so it can save you later,
Mm-hmm,
right? So when it comes to that emergency fund, you can't. Some people say, "Well, I can't afford it." Well, you can't afford not to, because when the time comes and you need it and you don't have it, it's too late. So keeping the end in mind and being not now, you don't need. We know the average is 3 to 6 months of emergency fund, but whatever is comfortable for you, right? Whatever number is I have some individuals that say, "Oh, I want 12 months." Well, that's fine. You can work towards it, but something's going to happen, right? Emergencies happen. So you may not ever get to the real number, but you at least want to have something to fall back on just in case. So that's one of the first things you do is get your short-term savings taken care of because that is huge because it'll help you get out of situations where you don't have to go into debt to get
right.
out, right? Because now you're digging a hole, right? So the savings allows you to not go into debt to get out of an emergency, right? And
Right.
then when we talk about life insurance for your second question, I mean it's the backbone of every financial strategy, right? You want to make sure that you're covered in the event something happens. You want to what they call indemnify, being able to indemnify your family, which basically means it's a fancy word for making whole again. If something were to happen to you, and of course they can't bring you back, but financially they're not in more of a rut, right?
Right.
They're better off than they were, instead of being in debt or having to take care of bills or the house is covered. What if you could have enough life insurance and protection where you're not only your income is covered in the event something happens to you while you're living, but also in the tragic event that you're no longer here, your family is still in a financial space to thrive, not where they're in a deficit
Or trying to survive.
or trying to survive is right.
All
Yeah.
right. So I like to break things down to atoms and molecules. So
Okay.
when it comes to emergency fund, let's say I have 6 months worth of expenses, right? What do I do with it? Put it under my mattress, put it in my
Well,
in my savings.
Well, it depends if you wanted to grow. Well, if you wanted to grow, the mattress is not the best idea, right? And I know some people are like, "Oh, but I need to hold on to it. I don't trust banks and things of that nature." But let me tell you, these financial institutions, they're few and far between where they would fold, right? So you would my suggestion is to put it in an interest bearing uh, account that makes money, that allows your money to make money. But you also want it in a space where it's fairly liquid, liquid meaning easily accessible for
Right.
emergencies, right?
Right.
So something that penalizes you for grabbing your money a little too early might not be the best um, idea for someone that is stashing that money for emergencies. So you want to make sure it's liquid. Hopefully, it doesn't cost to put it there, right?
Mhm.
And no early withdrawal penalties or anything like that. But you also want it to be in a vehicle that makes money. So look into those. There's a bunch of different accounts, savings accounts that give you percentages back. All you got to do is a quick Google or Chat GPT, and you'll find
Right.
a savings account that'll give you interest. Yeah.
So kind of like a high yield savings account, like a
Yeah.
maybe federal or so.
Yep. Yep, those are very, very
Later on,
good.
SoFi send me a check to mention your name.
No, right, exactly, right.
And
They
then,
did, they
so,
did. But those are great examples of where you can go to get a better rate of return. And there's some really great high yield savings and things like that accounts that give a really positive rate of return that could be very useful for emergency funds.
all right, now when it comes to life insurance, so especially on social media, there's all these shorts about IULs and whole life. Like, can you break that down for us?
Well, at the end of the day, there's two types of insurance. There's really two main types. There's term insurance, which goes for a specific term, right? Being it 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, 40 years. And then there's permanent insurance.
Mhm.
So understanding there's basically two types, term and permanent. The permanent policies typically have a cash savings accessibility to it where you can grow wealth within the policy. You get a certain rate of return, and there are hundreds of them, and they're built different. Some have a higher rate of return than others, so you would have to do your research on that or talk to a financial professional to give you more in-depth access to those as far as how they work. But basically, the term is for a certain amount of time, right?
Mhm.
It ends at the end of the term. And some people say, well, why would I need that? Well, it's cheaper because really life insurance is buying money at a discount in
Right,
its essence, right? So they're cheaper and you have them for accessibility. A lot of the policies it's just for when you pass away, but there's some policies that can cover you in the living. They have things called living benefits attached to them, where if you're critically ill, chronically ill, or terminally ill, you can draw off your policy in the living. So those are serve its purpose, and they're like I said, they're inexpensive. Whereas permanent policies, they do cost a little bit more because they go for your entire life,
right,
right? But there is a cash value component with them. You have the whole life versus universal life versus index universal life, which they have their benefits, but really you're looking for something with the best rate of return, the best rate of
right.
return and accessibility.
And also the cash savings life, that's more costly also because it comes with more benefits like living disabilities.
Yeah, you can add a bunch of different riders. It really depends on the insurance policy. You can add a bunch of different riders, but it's really not much of the cost as what you get from it on the back end.
Benefit.
Yeah, because if I asked you, would you rather have an account that has 10% fees,
Hmm.
but it only gives you 11% return versus someone that's some account that has 12% fees but it gives you 22% return.
Hmm.
Now, of course, you would say initially you would say, oh, the 10%, but it's only giving you a 1% difference, where the one that's a little bit higher is giving you greater return. So you'd go with that one. So the fees don't necessarily matter as much as the return. So sometimes people get caught up in the fees behind something, behind a product, but they need to look at the return on a product as well.
Okay. Now, how do you calculate how much someone actually needs to retire comfortably?
Mm. There's something called the financial independence number,
Hmm.
right? Which is the amount of money you need at the time in which you want to retire. So you never have to worry about money again.
Right.
Right. So we use a tool in my business, our service we provide that financial needs analysis that I spoke of. That gives you your financial independence number, FIN for short. It gives you your FIN. So now you know how much I need to be saving now. How much does Priscilla need to be saving? How much do your listeners need to be saving now to get to that end goal? And we calculate that we have software that actually calculates that for our clients, and uh, it's a really powerful tool because you don't know what you don't know, like I said. So until you know, oh, I should be saving 2 grand a month and you're saving 25 bucks, you're like, okay, I need to do something different because I got to get to that number. And we have individuals that want to retire at 50, they want to retire at 60. My millennials want to retire, and Gen X, they want to retire at 40, 35, right? So they need to know that if I'm going to retire at 35, the average age of someone is 85. I need to save enough money where I can cover my expenses for 50 years, right? So sometimes it's an eye-opening experience. They're like, oh, okay, I'm not making enough money or I'm not saving enough. So we definitely use that financial independence number to as a reality check, but also a goal,
Mm-hmm.
right? What you
Right.
need. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so what steps can someone take to make sure their money does not run out during retirement?
Yeah, you want to put it in vehicles that allow you to grow wealth over time so
Mm-hmm.
you can live off of it. And there's a bunch of other vehicles that you can use to make sure you don't run out of money from like we talk about life insurance with cash value process. There's annuities. There's a bunch of different vehicles that you can get like lifetime income riders, for example, with annuities that allow you to never run out of money. You save money for a long time, you never run out, right? So
Right.
we help individuals set those up as well. Those that desire that type of lifestyle when they're done working.
Right. All right. So we talk about setting a solid financial foundation. Now, can you explain the importance of creating a trust and
Mm-hmm.
how does it actually protect you yourself and the family? The
Well, I'm not speaking from an attorney standpoint, so they would have more in-depth information than I regarding that. But let's just say we call it you want to have control from the grave, right? You want to be able to put your families in position to have accessibility,
mm-hmm.
but not squander,
Right.
right? And we talk about generational wealth. For instance, I'm a father of five, and I want my kids to have access to the money when I'm no longer here, but I don't want them to squander it. So a trust could give direction while once you're no longer here and how you want that money to be dispersed, how you want those assets to be dispersed to your family when you're no longer here. So it protects them as well. I have plenty of examples of individuals getting a lump sum of money when someone is no longer here, and because they didn't have the right money habits and they had full access, they ran through it, right? It was gone as fast as it came. And if they would have had something in place, like a trust, it could have dispersed the money periodically
Mm-hmm.
where they wouldn't have access to all of it, or they had to hit certain mile markers. I have some friends, some clients that have mile markers for their kids. If they do A, B, and C, they get access to the money. So it gives you control. Really, that's what a trust does, is gives you control, and it doesn't go through what's called probate,
Right.
right? Whereas someone is interpreting what you meant in your will. And it, like I said, lawyers, they can get into it with more in depth, but that's a general overview of the importance of it from a financial standpoint. You have control, they have limited access based on however you want it to be set up, and um, you don't lose control as for the individuals that are getting access to that, they don't lose control because they don't have the right habits. So
Right. So how can single parents educate their children about money and financial responsibilities? So the person that you just gave an example about, if they also had proper financial education, then
yeah,
they wouldn't have blown it.
correct, correct. Because like I said, when you know better, you do better.
Right.
But we don't know what we don't know. So the one thing, in fact, the one thing I would say is educate yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Read books, meet with financial professionals that can educate you on how to grow wealth,
Mm-hmm.
uh, the compounding effect, the tax effect, the risk effect, those things that you can incorporate into your life right now. So in the event that something happens to you, or you have children that you want to educate as well, you can give them this information while you're here so they can learn faster than you, or they can be in position when you do uh, when you're called up to the office upstairs, right?
Right.
No longer here, that they feel comfortable with the information they have and the access of financial responsibility, that they don't squander it. So reading, listening to folks, but really talking to a financial professional. I think the social media side that you mentioned can be dangerous if you don't know what the source, the power of the source, like where it's really coming from.
Mm-hmm.
So sit with someone that you know you can trust.
Right. And I just wanted to add two more things. So community, and even
Mhm.
though as parents we think our children are too young to understand the
Mhm.
power of repetition, It's very powerful because it's
It
like
is.
sometimes when I do my personal development, I listen to a lot of Bob Proctor, and I listen
Mm.
it when I'm driving or when I'm cooking, and you think your kids are not listening or they roll their eyes. But one day I was driving in my car and my daughter was talking to me and she was saying, just like Bob Proctor said, create a vision board.
Yeah,
So
they're
they
listening.
are listening. So the power of repetition on that financial education is it's
Yeah, they're always learning, and gone are the days where people think you have to wait to learn about money.
yeah,
We need to learn. The earlier we learn, the better.
yeah.
My 8-year-old knows already, right? My 13-year-old, my 11-year-old, my 15-year-old, they understand how money works already. Not completely, but they understand enough. Do you understand the difference between debits and credits? Do you understand the difference between income and expenses?
Mm-hmm.
Right? And really just getting that basic knowledge. I used to teach a class in high school called Financially Lit, and I just wanted them to be financially literate with the basic information so they don't run into debt. The dangers of debt, really understanding that information instead of getting the job to pay a bill and now you're stuck and you don't like the job. Those things they matter. So instead of rushing into debt and not knowing how to budget and have control of your expenses and your income, it's key. And it really starts early.
Mm-hmm.
Which I would have known, I had to make some mistakes. And that's how I learned. And then a couple of things vicariously through other people. But if I would have known a lot of these things early on, it would have put me in a better position.
Right. And that class that you taught, I wish that existed everywhere, but it doesn't. And not because it doesn't, that does not mean you should seek financial professional or even join a community. Like you said, read books and stuff like that. Listen to podcasts on money, how it works.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But
It's
what
really key.
financial strategies can single parents use to overcome limited income or resources?
Well, I think one of the best financial strategies to figure out what one thing we want to understand is whether or not you having single-handed income or multi-handed income, and understanding the benefits of both or the lack of with one versus the other, and really seeing what strategy you have currently. Are you a single-handed income earner or are you a multi-handed income earner? And if you're a single-handed income earner, is that sufficient?
Mm-hmm.
That's sufficient for your goals and dreams for you and your family, right? And if it's not sufficient, if you want more family quality time, if you want to get out of debt faster, if you want to grow wealth at a higher clip, if you want to 2x, 5x, 10x your income, then you know single-handed income is probably not going to be the route. You might need to figure out a multi-handed income strategy, right? And then from there, like I said, do a financial needs analysis, meet with a financial professional, make sure you have your baseline, there are no holes in your financial boat,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then grow wealth from there.
Right. Okay. So, how can a single parent use their financial situation to inspire their children to achieve more, whether it's having very limited, very little, or substantial?
Yeah, I think it's having open conversations with them about money and where you are,
Mhm.
right? There's were times where money was tight in my family, and me and my wife and my kids, we talked about it and let them know this is why this can't happen right now, but this is where we're headed and this is where we're going. So having those open-ended conversations instead of hiding it, I think was key. My mom talked to me about money. Um, she told me where we were at. Like, up, we don't have it this day. Up, we're barely making it up. Things are going to be tight for a week. And I knew that conversation. And then you can decide whether or not you want it. It motivated me. I was like, I don't want to live like this. Right.
Mhm.
But without her having those conversations and having us live in a me live in a dream world, thinking everything was always okay, I don't know if it would have did as more help as knowing where we at. So I think having open-ended conversations about money, um, being honest with them, the level of information you want to give is totally up to you. But I think having some conversation is good. Yeah.
Yeah. And what are some ways single parents can save or invest or even go on a tight budget?
Yeah. Like I said, just really starting with something. I don't want to get into the product
Right.
because it's customized for each person. So I can't tell, oh yeah, you should save with this because it's a million people out here listening, right? On this single parent podcast. But it really depends on the person. But I can say get in the habit of saving.
Right.
If you're not saving, I don't care if it's $5. Get in the habit of saving because say $5 is a percentage of your income, right? And as your income increases, you increase that you keep that same percentage, you'll end up saving more over time. So
Right.
get in the habit of doing that. I'm gonna save 10% because that's what's the basic recommended is saving 10 to 20% of your income. Now, if you're making $5,000 a month, that's 500 bucks, right? But when you're making $50,000 a month, that's 5,000 bucks because you're saving a percentage. So as your income increases, so does your savings,
Right.
right? So getting into that habit of not saying I'm going to save a certain dollar amount, save a percentage of your income and stay consistent with that percentage or increase it. Because as your money grows, so will your savings. And then finding the right vehicle that gives you the right rate of a good rate of return.
Right. Now, how do you suggest single parents prioritize their goals like paying off debt, saving for retirement, or
Mhm.
investing?
Yeah, I think long-term wealth is so overlooked.
Mm-hmm.
I think we 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 are driven to get out of debt first, which I understand. I
Mm-hmm.
think debt can be a stranglehold on your finances. So it's a good goal to have. But sometimes I think we're tunnel visioned and that's the only goal. And we lose time saving long term, right? Because we waited 10 years to get out of debt, 5 years to get out of debt, where if you know the time value of money, you lose the time
Mm-hmm.
that you could have been growing wealth. So doing both simultaneously is key. So actually having all these vehicles run. So I'm working on my short-term savings, right? I got a habit of doing that. I'm also putting some towards debt, and I'm also building towards long-term wealth. And not one, then step two, then step three. Others that tell you just get out of debt first. I won't name those individuals, but get out of debt. Don't do anything else. Whereas you lose the time value of money. You're not your money isn't compounding over time. So really focusing on long-term wealth because that's the thing that's going to get you the lifestyle you want when you're done working, right? The
And
short-term
that
savings will get it.
shell, just start,
Yes.
get a financial professional to see where you're at, where you're going,
Hmm.
and
And work on that
stay,
long-term wealth.
yeah,
Yeah,
to
work on
stay
saving for the
focused
long
on it.
term. Yeah, and a lot of times we can't see it, so it's something that we don't want to do because I can't touch that money. Well, in order for money to grow, you have to it has to be invisible. And we have to remember that it has to be invisible. So that's why the shoebox strategy doesn't work. Because although that's semi invisible, you can still touch it and it's not going to grow. You go back to that shoebox. If you're not putting more money in, there's not more money coming out. Right. So put it in a vehicle that you can't touch for
Mhm.
a while because it'll give you a better rate of return because the bank say okay or the financial institution says okay, Priscilla, we're going to hold this money for a certain amount of time and we're going to give you a better rate of return than someone would if you could touch it, right? And understanding that it has to be invisible to grow. So using that strategy and then trust in the process and being consistent with your contributions. It's
Right.
not a hit and miss. I can do it when I can. Being consistent with it is key.
Intentional.
Hmm.
Okay, so I know you have many stories, but what's the most rewarding part of helping clients to achieve their financial freedom?
Ooh, I would say ridding them of worry, of financial worry.
Mm-hmm.
That's key because so many individuals are stressed out because of money. Especially during this time, during the holiday season. People are stressed out for lack and they want to do more. But really putting people in a position where their discretionary income is working so hard for them that they don't have to worry about money at some point in time. And knowing as long as they keep the strategy that's in place, that their children, and their children's children will be better off. I get so much joy out of that because, like I said, I come from a single parent home. Whereas if my mom was given some financial education, our lives would have been much less stressful. And we were in a space where we grew up in a neighborhood where we didn't have a lot. So I know how to roll quarters. I know how to roll pennies. I know how to put coins together to make ends meet. I get all that, and a lot of it was because lack of education. So giving people the information and the tools that they need to be successful financially is key. And I enjoy that so much.
Okay. So, what's one piece of advice you wish everyone would know, especially single parents?
I think I said it already, and that's spend what's left after saving. Put yourself in the front of the line. Imagine you're getting a paycheck and immediately all the bills are taken out. All your lifestyle, all the things you need are taken out, and there's a smidget left for savings. That's how most people live. They
Mm-hmm.
save what's left after spending. But if you were intentional about spending what's left after saving, you could put yourself in a better position. And I wish if I would have had that and me and my mom would have had that habit early on, we would have been better off. As simple as that sounds, I mean that's the easiest thing. I mean, we like I said, we can give you a bunch of information about products and things like that, but it's habits that you put in place that are the biggest thing. You can learn more about a bunch of stuff, but if you don't or you're not intentional or habitual about saving
Mm-hmm.
and putting your savings first and foremost, outside of the giving, because I give and save simultaneously, but putting yourself first in the front of that line and not the back, not the back, the clothes, the cars, the internets, the games, the apps. Don't put any of that stuff in front of you. Put yourself at the front of the line, and everything else is it goes after. I think that's the biggest thing.
And then, so what's your hope for single parents and their financial future?
My hope is that they get in front of someone with a proper education that can give them a strategy to build wealth
Mm-hmm.
and that they understand that all is not lost because of current circumstances. The current circumstances doesn't help you, it doesn't hurt you, right? They say if you focus on your current circumstances instead of where you're going, it's easy to quit,
Mm-hmm.
right? But really understanding that this is just a season, and it may be a longer season for some than it is others, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and for my mom, it was really the rest of her life, right? Until I was an adult. But once we came out of that season, I had the proper tools to win, not necessarily the financial tools, but I had the tools to win big. So I would just say stay after it. Don't give up, which I know you guys, all the single parents, you guys have the toughest job in America. It's the toughest job by far is to be a single parent because you have to be both at times,
Right.
mom and dad and mom,
Mm-hmm.
and it's easier said than done. I've seen it live and in action and in person for years and years and years. So I do know it's hard, but I want to encourage you, it's worth it. And as you guys know, even though it may look bleak, if you get the proper community and the proper education, the sky's the limit for you and your children.
Can you share with us an inspiring story of a client or a family member who you've worked with who actually achieved financial success?
Oh man, I have a few. Um, I have an individual that shall remain nameless, but I have an individual that I helped, a single parent. Um, they're co-parenting, but this individual mom, the son is staying with her, and she went through a tragic event growing up as a young child, a young teenager, um, and she made it through this tragic event and ended up being a single parent, but was destined uh, for she was treading down the wrong path.
Mm-hmm.
But she found something that she loved. She ended up being a professional in her field and did everything she could to take care of her son. I mean, when she made this change, he was 4 or 5. She said, I had to do something different if I want different results. So she went to school. She picked up a wonderful trade and became one of the best in her field,
Mm-hmm.
uh, and is still the best in her field. And I've helped her along the way build wealth for herself, build wealth for her son, and now they're financially set. She's covered in all bases. If something were to happen to her, she was super concerned about if something were to happen to her, how would her son be financially? And we talked about spending what's left after saving,
Mm-hmm.
and she was a spender. She was a big spender. Uh, she made some good money and it was coming in and going out just as fast. And she made a decision that she wasn't going to live like that anymore. And it was more important to have financial stability for herself while she's living and her son when she's no longer here. And now she's set up. Her son is now a high schooler, and he is set up for life. He has no worries. He doesn't know as much. He knows he has access, but he doesn't know how much access. And she told me uh, in a short conversation after we had everything set up, she said, "I feel so much better now. I can sleep at night knowing if something were to happen to me, he is okay for the rest of his life." So being able to deal with that type of client, and she gave me a big old hug and shed some tears, and it was just it's just fulfilling to know that you're putting someone in a position to win. And she's like, I didn't know this stuff. I
Right.
didn't know it, and she had been careless with money before and come into a bunch of money. And because she didn't have the financial well-being or strategies, she blew through it. But she made sure that that didn't happen again. So I'm super excited for her every time we talk once a year, at least once a year, just to make sure she's on track and doing the things she's supposed to do and keeping with the strategy. And I'm so happy every time I talk to her. She's excited about her money working for her, and she actually sees it. She gets her accounts and she looks at them and she's like, I can't believe this turned into this after all these years. I just kept staying prudent. And she started with little. She started with a little, but she stayed consistent over time. Now she's doing above and beyond what she was doing when we first started because she sees the vision and she sees the fruits and she sees the return.
Right.
And now she's in a really, really good position. And her son is just he doesn't know why. He has a good life, but he really doesn't know why. It was because of the sacrifices she made early on. And he'll be able to see the fruits of her labor when she's no longer here too. So it's exciting to be able to help people like that. I have an affinity for single moms, especially because I was raised by one. So I love to be able to put them in positions and give them the education to win big in life.
So the game changed when she shifted her mindset by just making a decision that
Yes.
I gotta change.
Yep.
And
Yep.
she started just right there.
She started right then and there. And she said, at least I have to do something. I can't do much right now, Trey, but what can I do to start? So we created a plan, and it wasn't a lot. It
Mhm.
wasn't a lot. I think it was $100 or something like that. It wasn't a lot, but it was something consistent over time. And she said, I'm going to make that sacrifice and put that there. And as her income grew, like I said, she stayed with that percentage, and now she's contributing much more. Yep.
So you mentioned that you touch base with her every year, right?
Hmm.
How important is it to touch base with clients every year? Because some people think it's just a one-time thing. I talk to a financial professional and that's it. I'm set. But
Yeah.
people don't understand as you add assets or sometimes things happen, life happens.
Mhm.
You may end up in a situation you have to like adjust.
You do. You do. You have to pivot. You may have to pivot. So you have to see where you are and see where you are at the current time and see if it's worth if it's time to make a strategic change, to cut back, to move forward. For instance, I had a client that was a nurse for a high school,
Mhm.
and she wasn't making a ton of money as a high school nurse.
Right.
Right. But she decided that it was time for a change in her career. But at that time, she only had enough. So I helped her with some basic protection of her income and things like that, life insurance, things of that nature.
Mhm.
But then 3 months later, she and a financial she went to a financial professional that wouldn't help her because she didn't make enough money. So they wouldn't give her education, information because, a lot of times in the financial world it's transactional, not educational. If you have enough money, they'll give you the education. If you don't, they won't. So we talked and I gave her some education and information. She gave me the opportunity to help her with what she had. But 3 months later, she tripled her income.
Right.
So now she's in a space where like now because we met and she's like, we need to meet. So instead of a year, we met in 3 months. She's like, my situation changed. I remember we were learning about these things. Can I get into those strategies now? And we did. So it's so helpful. And that's because I touched base with her
Mhm.
continuously. So I have these annual reviews with clients because it gives them the opportunity to see where they're at, where they're going. Is the game plan that we have in place still the same? Do we need to pivot? Do we or we need to or change it of some of that sort? So it's so important to have these annual reviews, and a lot of times people use them during the they use this the year end to review and things like that.
Mhm.
But it depends on the client. Sometimes it's 6 months, sometimes it's annually, but it's important to have a review of your finances consistently over time.
Perfect. So good. So I have two questions left.
Okay.
So the question is just fun questions that I'm asking after each interview. If I was a genie and
Okay.
you the wish of being anywhere in the world, where would you choose to be?
Ooh, well, you're gonna like this one because of your roots, but Jamaica would be one place I would love to be. I visited it recently, and I'm like, when can I go back? So that's one place I would love to be. Warm water, great weather, great food.
What was
What
your favorite food?
my favorite food in Jamaica? Ooh, I had so much good food.
I know you asked me where to get patties.
Yeah, I got patties every day. I had patties every day, so that was easy. Um, but what did I have that was just, what did they make that was one of the best? Um, I would say there was the curry chicken that I had there it was really outstanding because I wasn't a fan of curry before I got to Jamaica.
Hmm.
I was only a fan of jerk.
Was it
And
spicy or
it was spicy, but it wasn't too spicy, which I don't really do spicy, but I was able to eat that. And it was the flavors though were just they were different than out here. And so the curry was I was like, I don't do curry. And they were like, you haven't had my curry. So I had it and it was amazing. So that the curry was the best. The jerk was it was just good. I mean, I just love jerk chicken. It was a little bit more spicy though. That was a little bit more spicy, but Jamaica's my favorite because and I'm not saying it just because you're Jamaican. I'm just saying that's the because you get everything. You get the weather, you get the people, you get the food. It was just a great experience for me.
everything?
So
Yeah, awesome choice. The next
you would say
question, huh?
that. I say you would say that. Awesome choice, right? Yeah.
The next question is a question to me. So I asked you a million questions. Ask me what one question. I'm just allowing you to ask me one question.
I have one question. As a single mom, what is the most challenging day-to-day task for you as a single mom?
It's an easy question, but a hard task. I think the most challenging thing for me as a single mom is um balancing being a mom and trying to accomplish my personal goals,
Mm,
because it's like I make yearly goals and I break them down to quarters, months, weeks. And it's like you'll be on track and then you get off track because the child is sick.
yeah,
And
yeah,
I have my youngest has a silent disability, selective mutism. So she just started middle school, new teachers, new kids, and the anxiety level is just through the roof. So
yeah,
it's like in the mornings, it's hard. It's hard. Like I literally became a motivational speaker to a preacher
yeah.
trying
Yeah,
to
affirmations and everything, right?
and try to negotiate. I'll buy you this if you go to school, because she
Sometimes the external motivation
yeah,
is
she
it for
went
the time being.
to the point where I hate school. I
Hmm.
don't want to go, but it's hard, and then it takes so much energy out of you
Yeah,
that by the time I get to work and I come home, I'm like not so much physically tired, but mentally tired.
yeah.
And then I think last year for me was the year of surrender, where I'm like, all right,
Mm,
let me
yeah,
just put my stuff on hold and just take care of what's in front of me, which is my kids.
yeah,
But then it irks me because I have dreams and goals too. And so I see, especially women in my family, when they touch late 40s, 50s, they get into depression,
mm,
or what they say, midlife crisis. When really it's because you were so focused on the marriage or the children, you forgot about you. And
yeah,
then you get to a point where it's like, Why are you sad? Why are you depressed? Because you never really got to accomplish what you wanted to. But
Yeah.
it's a fight, and it's a good fight to fight. But I still persist, and then there are the days where I just surrender. So that's the most challenging thing for me as a single mom.
Yeah, and I think that's good too because when I talk to clients that are single parents, the one thing I talk to them about is putting themselves in position to win too, because eventually the kids are going to leave.
Yeah.
You have to be sure that you're taking care of yourself as well. That's where I talk about the single-handed income versus multi-handed income, because when you have that, you have access, you have options,
Right.
and you're not just living for your kids. Even though I know it's easier said than done. But you have to put you in the pole position at some time in the front. Not all the time, because I mean, even as parents, kids get sick, things stop. There's certain seasons or weeks or months where you have to put the kids first because they need you, but it doesn't have to be a mainstay. So
Right.
I'm glad that is something that you're cognitive of early on. Even though you gotta take care of her, you gotta get her to school every day,
Yeah.
and but at the same time you got to take care of Priscilla too. That's good.
So it's really like just I'm learning to set healthy boundaries.
Mhm.
And there are the sacrifices, but the healthy boundaries, making sure that I'm fulfilling me too.
And they need to know that. Yeah, and they need to know that mommy's working on mommy right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, no,
I'm like, you see when I'm in this room, just do not bother me. I gave you 2 hours, just leave me alone.
Yep, and they can do that for her. They can take care of themselves. They're super creative.
Yeah.
We tell our kids sometimes, I'm bored. You're not bored. You're just boring. Be more creative. Be more creative. Go figure something out.
That one
Um,
is good.
yeah, and give us a space. So yeah, no, it's good that they understand. The same thing with my kids, that they understand that we have a life outside of them. And
Yeah.
it's okay. God bless you with us. We love you, but sometimes we take care of ourselves. So, yeah. Like
Yeah.
they're trying to bang on the door right now. My 4-year-old is trying to get in here for the last 20 minutes and he can't get in. He's driving him crazy. It's driving him crazy. So, yeah, I understand it.
All right, y'all. This was so good. Was so good. And if there's somebody out there that wants more information on some of the stuff that you spoke about today, how can they reach you?
Well, the best thing is do social media, even though I'm not on it per se, giving this financial advice, but I can always be contacted there. And that's at Trey Meeks, TrayMeeks. That's my Instagram handle. That's the best way. I can also be reached by telephone. And if you're listening out there and you want to get in touch with us, Priscilla can get you in touch with me easily. But I would love to sit down and help anyone that needs it, even if it's just to education. It's not necessarily about oh, you need to get in this product and you need to provide this service. We start with education at our firm, and that's first and foremost. So if anyone out there that's listening needs just more education, feel free to contact us. It's complimentary. We don't do anything. We don't sell. We're not there to sell. We're there to educate, and that's key for us. So we would love to meet with you guys. So thank you, Priscilla, for having me here today.
You're welcome. And it's not just anyone that needs it, it's everyone that needs it. And
Yes.
you've helped me, and I'm at peace. I'm at peace knowing that if something happens to me when I'm alive, myself and my children are good. And if something happens when I do expire, you know, my kids are good.
Yeah, they are. Yep.
Thank you for joining us today. Thank you for everything.
Single parents, I love you guys. I'm so excited about this
Parent
podcast.
Nation podcast. Thank you, Trey.
You're welcome. Thank you guys. God bless.